Hi, in this video we're going to learn about Linux session variables, how to set variables, how to unset variables, and various types of variables that you could set and how they're used. We'll start with a couple of ways to display the current system variables as they're available on your system. The first is env, stands for environment. Env simply will display a full list of environment variables. If you want to be able to read them, you would type env space pipe and less or more or one of the other screen reader utilities, but less will work with less, and you see it gives it to us one screen at a time in a way that's actually useful. Hit Q to leave that reader. The second way to list the variables is set. It lists a very similar list of variables with one difference, that as you can see, as you might be able to see, it lists them alphabetically, which can be a little bit more useful. Let's hit Q to get out of set. Now it's all very nice. There we have a long list of variables, and some of them we may be familiar with and we may know how to use, and some not. But what if you want to create your own? Very simple. Stuff equals hello. Whenever you call the variable stuff, it will return the value hello. Not very useful, but it's a good illustration. Let's try it. Echo, which means print to the screen, $stuff. The $sign tells Linux that what follows is the name of a variable. So hit enter, and we see the word hello is printed to the screen. So there is in fact now a variable called stuff in our shell session. It won't survive our shell session, but it exists now, and it returns the value hello. Let's just test to make sure it's really there. Let's run set, but we don't want to have to go through the whole list that set will present us with. So set pipe grep, which will grab only those lines in set that include the word stuff. And in fact we see that stuff is included in set's list of variables. How about getting rid of it? We might want to unset stuff, not with a $sign this time, just unset stuff. We'll remove stuff from the list. So let's try set grep stuff again, and it's not there entirely. And let's try echo $sign stuff, and again there's nothing there. So we've learned how to create a system variable and how to remove a system variable when it's no longer needed. What if it is needed though? What if you want it even beyond the confines of this particular shell session? You can export. You would simply type export stuff, and it would now be available to all users on the system, at least until the next time you boot the computer. What if you want it to remain permanent even after you reboot the computer? What if you want it to be persistent? Then you would add it to one of the profile files that we discussed in the last video. That is either etc. profile to be globally persistent for everybody, all users, or to .bash underscore profile, or .bash underscore login, or .profile, which are all found in the every user's home directory, or at least any one of those could be found in every user's home directory, or the ~.bashrc. So it depending on which type of session you'd like to make this variable available to, that would determine which of these profile files you would edit. Now there are two specific variables that the LPI expects you to be familiar with, so I'll just tell you about these now. The first is the variable that determines the appearance, what information is included in your command line prompt. So that variable is called PS, capital P, capital S, 1. Now let's set it, or let's pretend to set it. Oh, why not? Let's set it. PS1 equals, in quotation marks, bracket, slash, backslash, U, the symbol at, backslash H, space, backslash T, backslash W, and another bracket. This will set that the information available on your command prompt will be user at host, that is the particular username and which host he's using right now, time, the time, the current time, and the path to this the current work directory, and then a colon. After the bracket there was a colon. So there's a colon also. Let's try it. We've now we have made that our value, and we should export it to make it something available anywhere in any session you are on this boot. So export PS1, and it is now a variable available to us no matter what shell session we are in, as long as the computer hasn't been rebooted. The other variable that LPI wants you to be aware of is path. We've discussed this before. Which directories are assumed wherever you might be in the Linux hierarchy. If you run a command from one of these directories, Linux will assume you're in that directory and run the command for you. So if you want to add a new directory to the path variable, you type path equals $path colon, and that's very important. You don't want to replace all the directories already in path. You want to add one to path. So $path colon means keep the old variables, but now add new directory. And if you want to make that permanent, you export it. If you want to make it permanent even post reboot, you add it to the profile files. Now, besides regular variables, which can be printed to the screen or will have some effect on shell sessions, there are also aliases. An alias is simply the name given to any command you want it to have. I'll give you an example. Let's say I sometimes will change directory, CD, to let's say to my home directory. I hit the tilde symbol, which will bring me back to my home directory. Wherever I was, I want to go back to that directory, and I want to list in long form all the files in that directory. But I don't want to type both of those commands, CD and then tilde and then ls-l, because I'm extraordinarily lazy. That happens to be true. Well, in Linux, we reward laziness. You could create a variable, an alias type of variable, by typing alias space do this, which will be the name of the alias, equals, and then in quotation marks, cd space tilde, semicolon, to separate the two commands, ls-l. Now, we hit enter, and we run do this. We simply type do this, which happens to be more characters than the commands themselves. I'm not that lazy. In any case, and we see that we have come to this, we've changed directory to this home directory, and we've run an ls-l listing. Function is another type of variable you can create. This variable is a mini program. And I'm going to give you a very simple example, but there you can easily imagine how this could be very complex and very, very useful. To create a function that's a mini program, you type function, the name of the function, say list me, parenthesis, parenthesis, enter, and you'll enter a programming environment. To begin the program, you type a left curly brace, and then enter, which will move you to the next line. Then let's say you type ls-l, which is again the command which tells the computer to type to the screen all the files in this directory in long form, space, $1. $1 means that when you invoke this function called listme, when you invoke this function, you also would type a directory, in our case a directory, that you'd like to list to the screen. The user, every time he invokes the function, can invoke a different directory. Then you've typed enter, and you hit the right curly brace, and hit again, and it's closed. We finished creating the function. How do you run it? You run by typing function, which is the name of the function, and /home, let's say. /home, and see what happens. In fact, we have moved to home, and we have listed all the files in the home directory. We could do it again, function /etc, and list all the files in etc. So in this video, we've explored Linux session variables, how to create them, how to list the variables that already exist, how to make them permanent, how to remove them, how to create an alias, and how to create a function. You should definitely experiment on your own with each of these tools. Create your own alias, create your own function, create and unset your own variables. Now it's time for our review quiz. Which Linux system variable determines the information included with the command line prompt? Is it path, set, PS1, or alias? Which Linux system variable determines the information included with the command line prompt? And the answer is PS1.